My name is Sabrina Whitmore, and I'm 32.
Last Thursday night, I was on my couch with my feet tucked under me, half watching a game I didn't care about and half dooming through my phone like it was a second job. The apartment was quiet in that end of week way. My kind of quiet. The kind that makes you believe you've earned peace. Then the front door opened and the air changed. My boyfriend Nathan walked in like he had a mission. Not angry, exactly. More like determined. His jaw was set. His eyes were too alert, like he'd rehearsed this in his car, checked his reflection, and decided what version of himself was coming inside. He didn't greet me, didn't kiss me, didn't even do the normal long day sigh drop of his keys. He just stopped directly in front of the TV, blocking my view, and said, "We need to talk." I blinked up at him, remote still in my hand. "Okay?" He took a breath, not a shaky one, a performative one. Then he said it. "I'm going through your phone tonight to see if you're loyal." For a second, I honestly thought I misheard him. Like maybe he said your calendar or your photos or something normal, couple annoying. But no, his face didn't flinch. I sat there, frozen, the way you freeze when someone throws a glass at the wall and expects you to help clean it up like it's normal. "Why?" I asked. Because my brain needed the steps. It needed logic. It needed anything other than the sudden feeling that I'd been living with a stranger who'd been quietly collecting reasons not to trust me. Nathan's eyes flashed, like he'd been waiting for me to argue so he could punish me for it. "Because Brent's girlfriend was cheating," he said. "And he never knew. She had him looking stupid. I'm not letting that happen to me." Brent was his best friend. Always around, always texting, always somehow involved in our weekends. I knew the story. I'd heard it 3 times already this week, each time with more rage and more detail, like Nathan was absorbing Brent's humiliation through osmosis. I nodded slowly. "That's awful for him. But what does that have to do with me?" Nathan's expression tightened. "It's not about you specifically," he said, and that was the first little knife, the implication that it could be me, that I was now in the category of possible threat simply because someone else got caught cheating. "It's about verification," he continued. "If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to worry about." The line landed between us like a dropped weight. Because I'd heard that sentence before, online, in arguments, in people justifying things they should have been ashamed of. And the craziest part? If he'd said, "I'm scared," Brent's situation messed with my head. "Can you reassure me?" I would have done it. I would have wrapped my arms around him and told him he wasn't stupid and I wasn't going anywhere. But he didn't come to me with fear. He came to me with authority, like he was handing down a sentence. I stared at him for a long moment, and I could feel something in me, small and stubborn, pause the way a person pauses when they realize they've been doing all the emotional labor in a relationship and calling it love. "Okay," I said. Nathan blinked. "Okay?" I reached for my phone on the coffee table, unlocked it with my thumb, and held it out to him, screen glowing. "Go ahead," I said calmly. "Check whatever you want." His mouth parted a little, like he expected a fight, like he'd geared up for one, like his whole body was ready to win an argument, and I'd just refused to play. He took the phone anyway, eager, almost too eager, and dropped onto the other end of the couch. And then he went through it like he was conducting an investigation. Messages first. He opened threads with coworkers, my sister, group chats, even the boring ones where my mom sent me photos of things she wanted to buy and asked, "Do you like this?" Then my social apps. Instagram DMs, old Snapchat threads. I forgot existed. My email, my photos, my bank app, like I was hiding a secret boyfriend in the checking account. He even opened my notes app. My notes app. As if I'd written a confession titled, "A Fair Plan, Do Not Open." I sat there watching him scroll, watching his eyebrows knit in frustration every time he found nothing. Because my phone really was boring. Work emails, grocery lists, calendar reminders, a screenshot of a recipe I never made, a group chat with my friends where we mostly sent memes and complained about men who acted like they were auditioning for a reality show nobody asked for. I could practically see him getting angrier the cleaner my life looked. "This proves nothing," he muttered after about 20 minutes, like the absence of evidence was somehow suspicious. I tilted my head. "Or," I offered, voice still mild, "it proves exactly what it looks like." Nathan exhaled sharply, still scrolling. "You could have deleted stuff." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so telling. He wanted me guilty. He needed me guilty. And that's when I did it. Not as revenge, not as a trap. Just as balance. "So I can check yours too, right?" I asked casually, like I was asking if he wanted tea. Nathan's thumb froze mid-scroll.
He looked up at me.
Your phone, I said, still calm. If we're doing loyalty checks, it goes both ways.
His face changed instantly, like someone flipped a switch behind his eyes. That's different. I blinked. How? Because I'm not the one who might be cheating, he snapped.
The words hit me so hard I felt them in my ribs.
Not the one who might be cheating.
So in his head, I was the one, the suspect, the risk.
I leaned back against the couch, studying him.
Neither am I said quietly. Apparently, since you're finding nothing interesting in my phone. His jaw tightened. He looked down at my phone again, like it had personally offended him by not offering drama.
This doesn't mean anything, he muttered again.
I held out my hand. Okay, then hand me yours. Nathan's eyes flicked to his phone on the coffee table. And then, like it was an instinct, like his body moved before his mind could pretend, he snatched it up.
Fast, protective, panicked.
No, he said immediately. You don't need to see my phone. I kept my voice even. Why not?
Because it's private, he said. It's mine.
And mine isn't? I asked, not raising my voice, not even accusing. Just asking the question that sat in the middle of the room like a lit match. Nathan's cheeks flushed. Stop trying to turn this around on me, Sabrina. This is about you being loyal.
I stared at him. He had spent 20 minutes digging through my entire digital life. He had read my work emails. He had scrolled through my photos. He had searched like he wanted to find something, anything, to justify the suspicion he walked in holding. And now I was the villain because I wanted equal rules?
You read everything, I said, slow and clear. You saw my whole life. What could possibly be on your phone that's more private than that?
Nathan's breathing got quicker. You're being manipulative, he said, voice rising. I'm being equal, I replied.
His eyes flashed, and suddenly he leaned forward like he wanted the argument to feel bigger than it was.
Women have intuition, he said sharply, as if that ended the conversation. I know something is off. I felt my stomach drop, not because I believed him, but because I recognized the move. The vague accusation, the mystical certainty, the way people say intuition when they don't have proof but want authority anyway. The only thing that's off, I said, is you refusing to show me your phone after going through mine.
And then Nathan did something that would have almost impressed me if it hadn't been so painfully predictable.
His eyes watered. He actually started tearing up, like I'd done something cruel. I can't believe you're doing this to me, he said, voice trembling.
I stared at him, stunned by the speed of the emotional pivot.
Doing what? I asked. Asking for the same thing you demanded from me. You're supposed to understand, he whispered.
I do understand, I said. That's why I handed you my phone immediately. Now I'm asking for the same courtesy.
Nathan clutched his phone to his chest like it contained nuclear codes. No, he repeated, firmer. I don't have to prove anything to you.
But I have to prove something to you, I said, my voice quieter now, because something in me was going cold.
His answer came fast, too fast.
If you loved me, he said, you wouldn't need to see it. I held his gaze. If you loved me, I said, you wouldn't have needed to see mine. That's when he played the card people play when they're cornered. Not because they want to leave, but because they want you to beg.
Fine, Nathan snapped, wiping his face like he was the injured party. If you don't trust me, maybe we shouldn't be together. There it was. The ultimatum.
The threat dressed up as principle. A week ago I might have panicked. I might have apologized for wanting fairness. I might have reached for him and promised I trusted him, even while my gut screamed that something wasn't right. But something small and stubborn inside me had stopped begging to be chosen.
So I just nodded. Okay, I said.
Nathan froze. Okay, what? Okay, I repeated, calm as glass. Maybe we shouldn't be together.
His jaw dropped like the floor moved.
You're breaking up with me because I won't show you my phone? He demanded, voice suddenly sharp again, tears gone, like they'd never existed.
No, I said. You're breaking up with me because you won't show me your phone after demanding to see mine. I'm just agreeing with you. For a second, he just stared, like he couldn't compute a world where his bluff didn't work.
Then he stood up so fast the couch cushion bounced.
You're unbelievable, he spat and stormed toward the bedroom. The door slammed so hard the hallway picture frame rattled.
I sat there on the couch, remote still in my hand, my phone still missing from my palm because he'd been holding it.
And the strangest part? When the apartment went quiet again, I didn't feel devastated. I felt clear, like the lights had come on in a room I'd been living in, half dark.
20 minutes later, the bedroom door opened again.
Nathan walked out with his face blotchy and his hands shaking, and he didn't look like a man who'd just cried. He looked like a man who'd just made a mistake he hadn't planned for.
I deleted some texts, he said quietly.
I stared at him. What texts? I asked, voice steady. He swallowed hard. It doesn't matter. And that was the moment I knew, really knew, that my phone had never been the problem. It was the mirror. And he couldn't stand what it reflected back at him. He said, it doesn't matter, like words could erase consequences. I didn't move. I didn't rush to comfort him. I didn't soften my face the way I used to whenever Nathan looked like he might fall apart, because I was suddenly aware of how often his falling apart happened right when he was cornered.
It literally does matter, I said. You don't get to say you deleted texts and then tell me it's not relevant. Nathan's shoulders rose and fell like he was trying to breathe through a wall. He started, then stopped.
I waited. Silence is its own kind of pressure. I've always been good at it. He swallowed again, eyes glassy. I deleted them because I knew you'd overreact.
The words landed heavy, not an apology, a blame shift. I tipped my head slightly. So you hid them?
No, he said too fast. I didn't want to hurt you.
It would have been almost touching if it wasn't wrapped in hypocrisy.
He had been fine potentially hurting me by interrogating my phone like I was on trial, but protecting my feelings suddenly mattered when his secrets were involved.
Nathan, I said, keeping my voice level, you were okay with digging through my entire phone because your friend's girlfriend cheated. You didn't care how that made me feel. You didn't care that it was humiliating. You didn't care that you were accusing me without evidence.
He flinched. But now you want to tell me you deleted messages to spare my feelings? I continued.
No. You deleted them to spare yourself consequences. His eyes darted away. He was searching the room for something, anything, to grab onto. A distraction, a new accusation, a moral high ground he hadn't already burned down. Then, like clockwork, he reached for outrage. You're being controlling, he said, voice cracking in the exact way that used to make my heart rush to repair him. I didn't take the bait. I'm being consistent, I said. You demanded access to my phone. You got it. Now I'm asking for yours. His breath came out sharp. It's different. The phrase again, like a mantra, like repetition could turn nonsense into truth. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, and held out my hand.
Show me, I said.
Not the whole phone if you don't want. Just the messages you deleted. Who were they from? Nathan's jaw tightened. He stared at my outstretched palm like it was a weapon.
I can't, he whispered.
Why? His eyes flicked to me, then away. Because you'll take it the wrong way.
A cold, clean feeling slid down my spine.
The fact that there is a wrong way to take it, I said quietly, tells me everything.
He flinched again like I'd struck him. Sabrina, please, he said. I love you.
I didn't answer that. I couldn't. Not when love was being used like a shield. Who were the texts with? I asked again.
Nathan hesitated.
And in that hesitation, my mind started doing what it always does when something doesn't add up. It built a timeline. We'd been together 2.5 years, living together 8 months. My apartment, my lease. I'd invited him into stability, and he'd settled into it like it was something he'd earned. And lately, there had been little things. The way he angled his phone screen away sometimes, just slightly. The way he'd started taking calls in the bathroom with the fan running. The way he'd been busy at weird hours, then showed up sweet again, like kindness could cancel suspicion.
Tell me, I said. Who? Nathan's voice came out rough. It was Jade.
The name didn't just land.
It echoed.
Jade, his ex-girlfriend. The one who meant nothing. The one he never talked to. The one whose name he only mentioned when he was being defensive, like he needed to remind me she was irrelevant. I sat back slowly. How long?
Nathan's eyes shined with tears again,
but I didn't move this time. I just watched him.
A few months, he whispered.
My stomach dropped. Not dramatically, not like a movie. More like the sensation of realizing you've been walking on something that looked solid and wasn't.
Months, I repeated.
He nodded, tears spilling now, voice shaking. It wasn't like that. She was going through a hard time. She reached out and, I don't know, it just happened. Did you tell me? I asked. He shook his head. Did you hide it? I asked. He nodded. Did you delete the messages because you knew you were doing something you shouldn't be doing? I asked. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The silence was my answer. I took a slow breath. Were they flirty?
No, he said quickly. I mean, not really.
I stared at him. He swallowed. Some of it could look bad out of context. Show me, I said. His face twisted. I told you, I deleted them. Then recover them, I replied, like it was obvious, because it was. Nathan's eyes widened a fraction. I can't. I almost laughed.
Not because I found it funny, because it was absurd. You can, I said. There's a recently deleted folder. His face went pale so fast it was almost startling. How do you know that? He whispered. Because I'm not an idiot, I wanted to say. Because I grew up watching people say trust me while hiding receipts, I wanted to say. Because you don't get to interrogate me and then pretend you don't understand how phones work, I wanted to say. Instead, I said, because I'm 32 and I've owned a smartphone for more than a decade. Nathan's throat bobbed. Open it, I said. Show me the recently deleted messages. He shook his head immediately. That's an invasion of privacy. I let out one short, incredulous breath. You went through my phone, I said. You read my work emails. You checked my photos. You opened my bank app. That's different, he insisted, voice rising again. I stood up, not dramatically, just stood, like my body needed height to match the clarity coming into my head. You keep saying that, I said, voice flat. But it's not. Nathan took a step toward me, palms up, pleading. Sabrina, please. I love you. Jade means nothing. Then why delete the messages? I asked. He shook his head like he didn't want the words to exist. Because I knew you'd be upset. So you were hiding them? No, I was protecting you. I stared at him and something inside me hardened. You were protecting you, I said. Nathan's face crumpled again, but I didn't feel pulled toward it. I felt tired. Tired in a way that comes from realizing you've been carrying the emotional truth of your relationship alone. I held out my hand again. Phone, I said. Nathan clutched his phone tighter. No. My voice didn't rise. It didn't shake. Then pack your stuff. He blinked like he didn't understand the language. You're kicking me out? He asked, voice suddenly sharp, defensive. You can either show me what you've been hiding, I said evenly, or you can leave. Your choice. Nathan's face snapped into outrage, like he'd been waiting to be able to call me the villain. He yanked his phone up and started tapping furiously. Fine, he said through clenched teeth. I'm calling Brent. I watched him, arms crossed, as he paced near the kitchen and put his friend on speaker like he wanted an audience. Brent answered groggily. Dude, what's up? Nathan's voice wavered, immediately adopting the victim tone. She's being abusive, Brent. Abusive, Brent. She's demanding to see my phone and threatening to kick me out. There was a beat of silence on the other end. Then Brent said, cautiously, Wait, didn't you just go through her phone? Nathan's face twisted. That's different. Even through the speaker, I could hear Brent hesitate. How? Brent asked, slower now. Nathan's mouth opened, then closed. And for the first time all night, there was no quick comeback, no rehearsed line, no emotional smoke bomb. Just the sound of his own hypocrisy sitting in the room with us. Nathan's eyes darted to me, panicked now, because even his backup wasn't immediately buying it. Nat, Brent started, then stopped, like he remembered he wasn't supposed to call him Nat anymore. Man, just show her the texts. If it's nothing, it's nothing. Nathan's voice went shrill. You're supposed to be on my side. I am, Brent said, sounding uncomfortable. But you're kind of doing the same thing you said you were scared of. Nathan's jaw clenched so hard I could see it. He stabbed at his phone screen and ended the call. The apartment went quiet again. Nathan stood there breathing hard, staring at me like I'd betrayed him by not letting him get away with betraying me first. I can't believe you embarrassed me, he hissed. I looked at him, steady. I didn't embarrass you, I said softly. You did. He stared at me like he hated the calm in my voice, because calm meant I wasn't begging. Then he spun toward the bedroom, yanked a drawer open, and started shoving things into a duffel bag with angry, jerky movements. I didn't follow. I didn't plead. I didn't say, we can fix this. I just stood in the living room and listened to the sounds of someone scrambling to pack up the version of himself he thought he could keep hidden. A few minutes later, he stormed out with the bag slung over his shoulder, cheeks wet, eyes blazing. This is insane, he said. No, I replied quietly. This is reality. You just didn't think you'd have to face it. He hesitated by the door, like he wanted one last chance for me to cave. When I didn't, he opened it hard and left. The door slammed behind him. And I was alone in the apartment again. The one I'd paid for, maintained, built my life in, except now it felt like the quiet had teeth. Because the thing about someone demanding to inspect your loyalty is that they're usually not looking for proof. They're looking for permission. And as I stood there in the aftermath, staring at the dark rectangle of the TV, I realized something else too. Nathan hadn't come home that night because he was afraid I'd cheat. He came home because he was afraid I'd catch him first. Friday passed in silence. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that buzzes under your skin, like a phone vibrating on a table you're pretending not to see. Nathan didn't come home that night.
I knew because his shoes were gone, his toothbrush missing from the cup, and the apartment had that hollow feeling it only got when I was truly alone in it. I didn't text him. I didn't ask where he was. I didn't check his location like I once might have, back when I still believed proximity equaled honesty. I went to bed early and slept badly. Saturday morning, my phone buzzed while I was making coffee. Nathan, we need to work this out. I love you. I stared at the message longer than I should have, not because it moved me, but because I was waiting for the second part. The accountability, the explanation, the I messed up. It didn't come. So I typed back one sentence. Me. Who did you delete the text from? The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then nothing. 2 hours passed. I went grocery shopping. I folded laundry. I reorganized the pantry like I could put my life back in order by alphabetizing spices. Finally, another message came through. Nathan, can we talk in person? I didn't hesitate this time. Me. Not until you answer the question. Another long pause. Late Saturday evening, I heard keys at the door. Nathan stepped inside, looking like someone who hadn't slept, eaten, or won a single internal argument. Same clothes from Thursday. Hair shoved into a messy knot at the back of his head. His eyes were red, but not freshly cried red, older, deeper. I was in the kitchen, meal prepping, the rhythm of chopping vegetables grounding me in a way he never could. He hovered in the doorway like a guest. It was Jade, he said quietly. I didn't look up. I know, he swallowed. I didn't think it mattered. I set the knife down slowly and finally turned to face him. How long? I asked. A few months. The words still didn't feel real. Months was a season. Months was a habit. Months was choice. Were they flirty? I asked. No, he said automatically, then faltered. I mean, not really. I crossed my arms. Nathan. He sighed like he was tired of being honest. Some of them could look bad out of context. Show me, I said. He shook his head. I told you, I deleted them. Then recover them. I can't. Yes, you can. He looked trapped now, eyes darting like he was calculating exits. Sabrina, please, you're going to take it the wrong way. I laughed then, just once, short and sharp. The fact that there is a wrong way tells me exactly how bad it is. He reached for me, stopped himself, then let his hand fall. Jade means nothing, he insisted. I love you. Then why was she worth hiding, I asked. He had no answer. I held out my hand. Your phone. No. The word was final. So was mine. Then pack the rest of your stuff, I said, and find somewhere else to stay. He stared at me like he didn't recognize the woman standing in front of him. You're really doing this, he said, incredulous. I'm not doing anything, I replied. I gave you a choice. You made it. That's when he pulled out his phone again, not to show me, but to call for backup. This time it wasn't Brent. It was his mother. I didn't hear her voice, but I heard the tone shift immediately. The wounded son, the unfair girlfriend, the selective truth. Sunday morning, my phone rang. Donna, Nathan's mom. She'd always been sweet to me, complimented my cooking, told people I was good for him. The tone she used now was sharp enough to cut. Sabrina, she said, not bothering with hello. What is going on with you and my son? I kept my voice calm. He demanded to go through my phone to check my loyalty. I let him. Then he refused to show me his, after I asked for the same. He's a young man, she said. He deserves privacy. And I don't? It's different, she said, like she'd rehearsed it with him. Women are more intuitive. Men don't cheat the same way. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. He was deleting messages from his ex-girlfriend. There was a pause. Then, dismissively, that doesn't mean anything. Then why delete them? I asked. Silence. He was hiding them while accusing me of cheating, I continued. That's not intuition. That's projection. Her voice cooled. You're overreacting. You're forcing him out of his home. It's my apartment, I said evenly. My lease. He moved in temporarily and chose not to be added. Another pause. Longer this time. Then the call ended. No goodbye. Monday morning, things escalated. I was at work when security called to tell me my boyfriend was downstairs asking to see me. My ex-boyfriend, I corrected. And no, I'm not available. Apparently, Nathan didn't take that well. He blew up my phone. I'm here to talk like adults. Stop being petty. You're embarrassing me. Security is making me leave. This is your fault. I didn't respond. Tuesday, he sent a mutual friend to test the waters. Carmen. Hey, Nathan's really sorry. He says he'll do anything to fix this. Me. He can start by showing me the deleted texts. Carmen. He says they're permanently gone. Me. Then he can explain what was in them. No reply. Wednesday, the narrative changed.
Friends started texting me carefully worded questions. People who had never doubted me suddenly wanted to check in. I could feel it, the whisper campaign, the slow erosion of reputation. So I stopped explaining. I started sending screenshots. Thursday night. His demand to go through my phone. My immediate compliance. His refusal when I asked for the same. The hypocrisy spoke louder than any defense I could have made. By Thursday evening, 1 week after the original incident, Nathan sent me a long email. I mean long. Thousands of words accusing me of being controlling, manipulative, emotionally abusive, gaslighting him, making him feel unsafe, violating his boundaries. All because I asked for equal transparency. I replied with one sentence. You can pick up the rest of your things Saturday between 10 a.m. and noon. He responded almost immediately. We need to talk about this like adults. There's nothing left to talk about, I wrote back. You demanded to check my loyalty while hiding your own. I wasn't disloyal, he replied. Prove it, I typed. I don't have to prove anything to you. I stared at that sentence for a long time, then smiled because he'd finally said the truth out loud. Saturday arrived right on time, 10:00 a.m. sharp. I'd been awake since 6, not because I was anxious, but because I wanted control over the day, over the narrative, over myself. By the time the doorbell rang, Nathan's belongings were already boxed, labeled, and stacked neatly by the door. Clothes folded, shoes paired, electronics wrapped. Even the stupid protein powders and mismatched chargers he never bothered organizing. I'd taken the time to do it properly. If anyone ever tried to say I was careless or cruel, the evidence would disagree. I opened the door and immediately understood why my chest tightened. Nathan wasn't alone. He stood in the hallway, flanked by Brent and 2 men I didn't recognize. Tall, broad, awkwardly standing too close like they'd been positioned on purpose. Backup. Muscle. Insurance. Nathan crossed his arms like he'd come prepared to be victimized. I don't feel safe, he announced, loudly enough for the neighbors to hear. I blinked once. You lived here for 8 months without issue. He ignored that, stepping inside anyway, eyes scanning the apartment like he was searching for something to accuse me of stealing. Brent looked uncomfortable. The 2 strangers avoided eye contact. I stepped aside and gestured to the boxes. Everything that's yours is right there. Nathan frowned. That's it? Yes. He immediately started rummaging through them, movements sharp and theatrical, like he wanted to find a problem. Where's my watch? He snapped. Side pocket of the black duffel, I said calmly. He checked. It was there. What about my headphones? Top of the electronics box. Found. What about my... He stopped, eyes narrowing. Where's my grandmother's ring? That one hit differently. I met his gaze. In the jewelry box. 3rd drawer. Blue velvet pouch. He rushed to the bedroom, yanked open the drawer, dug furiously, and then froze. The ring sat exactly where I said it would. For a brief moment, disappointment flickered across his face before he masked it with irritation. Well, he muttered, what about my half of the deposit? I almost laughed. What deposit? The apartment deposit, he said. I lived here. I have rights. I pulled my phone from my pocket, not defensively, not nervously, just prepared. You're not on the lease, I said. You insisted on that. One of the guys behind him, Derek, as I'd later learn, snorted. That's not how it works, man. If he lived here... I have screenshots, I interrupted gently. Nathan stiffened. I opened my phone and scrolled to the conversation from 8 months ago. There it was. I don't want to be on the lease. Feels too permanent. Let's just see how living together goes first. His words, his decision. I held the screen up. Derek leaned in to read it. Brent let out a low whistle. Nathan's face flushed deep red. You saved that? He accused. I save everything important, I replied. You taught me that. Brent shook his head slowly. Man, you really played yourself. Nathan spun on him. Whose side are you on? The side of logic, Brent muttered. That's when Nathan tried one last move. A desperate one. I'll show you the text, he said suddenly, if you take me back. The room went still. I turned to face him fully. What? The messages with Jade, he said quickly. I'll show you everything if we agree to work on us. I stared at him, stunned. Not by the offer, but by the audacity. You mean the texts you said were permanently deleted? I asked. His eyes flicked away. I have screenshots, he admitted. Of course he did. So you lied, I said quietly. Again. I was scared, he said. Please, just promise we'll try. No, I said. Not angry, not emotional. Just final. Show me now, I continued. No conditions. He looked around, at Brent, at the 2 guys, at the walls like they might side with him. No one did. Finally, with shaking hands, he unlocked his phone and held it out. He didn't let me take it, Just scrolled himself, flashing the screen in quick bursts. But it was enough. Jade saying she missed him. Nathan admitting he thought about her. Flirty selfies, not nude, but intimate, familiar. Plans for coffee, he'd told me, were work meetings. My chest tightened, not because I was surprised, but because seeing it confirmed what my instincts had already accepted. We never did anything physical, he rushed to say. It wasn't cheating. You were having an emotional affair, I said. That's not a real thing, he snapped. I looked at him calmly. Going through my phone looking for evidence of cheating while you were hiding. This isn't a real thing either. But here we are. Derek cleared his throat. That's actually pretty messed up, man. Nathan whirled on him. I'm not paying you to have opinions. I paused. You're paying them? Derek shrugged awkwardly. $50 each, just to help move and look intimidating. I laughed. I actually laughed. Nathan hired backup to move out of an apartment he wasn't on the lease for, while hiding messages from his ex, after accusing me of cheating. Even Brent shook his head. This is wild. Nathan's shoulders slumped, the performance finally collapsing under its own weight. They loaded the boxes in silence. No dramatic goodbye. No apology. Just the sound of a door closing on a version of my life that suddenly felt very far away. The apartment felt different after they left. Not emptier, cleaner, like the air had finally stopped bracing itself for impact. I locked the door, leaned my back against it, and stood there longer than necessary. Not crying, not shaking, just listening to the hum of the fridge, the faint city noise outside, my own breathing, steady and uninterrupted. That night, I slept straight through for the first time in weeks. The circus didn't wait long to resume. Monday morning, my phone lit up with a text from an unfamiliar number. Jade. Hey, Nathan says you're being really controlling and abusive. That's not cool. I stared at the message, thumb hovering over the screen, heart oddly calm. The woman he'd been hiding, now defending him. I screenshotted immediately. Then I replied once. Me. Did he tell you he demanded to go through my phone first while hiding your messages? The message showed as read. No response. An hour later, Nathan's mother called again. I didn't answer. By Tuesday, the whispers were louder. Friends checking in with that careful tone people use when they're trying not to accuse you outright. Co-workers asking vague questions about how I was holding up. Even my sister called, concerned but confused. So I did the only thing I could do without losing myself. I stopped defending. I let the receipts speak. Screenshots of him demanding my phone, my immediate compliance, his refusal, his admission about deleting texts, his lie about permanently deleting them. Most people didn't need more than that. By Wednesday, the tone shifted. Apologies came in quietly. Side texts. I didn't realize. I'm sorry. I should have known better. That doesn't look good on him. Nathan, meanwhile, escalated. He sent me a novel-length email. Paragraphs and paragraphs about how I'd gaslit him, violated his boundaries, made him feel unsafe, manipulated him into looking bad, and emotionally abused him by refusing to work through things. I read it once. Then I archived it. I replied with a single line, "Please stop contacting me." He didn't. Week 2 post-move, Brent texted me. Brent, I shouldn't be telling you this, but Nathan tried to get back with Jade. I raised an eyebrow. Apparently she wasn't interested in being official. According to Brent, she liked the attention, the validation, being the person someone else's partner confided in. But she didn't want the reality of Nathan. When he showed up talking about us and finally being together, she told him she was seeing someone else. He didn't take it well. Week 3, he called me at 2:07 a.m. I shouldn't have answered, but I did. I messed everything up, he said, voice breaking through the speaker. I don't know why I do this. I ruin good things. Yes, I said simply. You do. Silence. I'm in therapy, he added quickly. I'm trying to figure out why I sabotage myself. I hope it helps, I said, and I meant it, just not in the way he wanted. I know you're seeing someone, he said suddenly. I wasn't. That's none of your business, I replied. Is it Carmen? He asked. I always knew you liked her. I laughed then, soft, tired. Nathan, I said, you demanded access to my phone while hiding an emotional affair with your ex. You tried to turn everyone against me. You brought hired muscle to move out. Why would I ever take you back? Because I love you, he whispered. You loved the stability, I corrected. You loved having someone dependable while you kept a backup plan. He hung up without another word. Week 4, I ran into Jade at a bar. Pure coincidence. Or karma, hard to say. She looked uncomfortable, guilty, older somehow. I didn't mean for things to get so messy, she said. How long? I asked. About 4 months, she admitted. He reached out saying he was having doubts. I should have blocked him. Why didn't you? She hesitated. Ego. I nodded. At least she was honest. He didn't actually want me, she continued. He wanted attention, a safety net. When he showed up single, I realized he was using both of us in different ways. That tracked. A few days later, I got one final message from Nathan. I know you'll never forgive me, but I need you to know I was projecting. I accused you because I knew I was being shady. You deserve better. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because here's the thing I learned. Quietly, painfully, clearly. People who demand transparency while refusing to offer it themselves aren't looking for truth. They're looking for cover. And once the lights come on, there's no unseeing what's been hiding in the dark. The quiet after that felt earned. Not the fragile kind. The kind that shatters the second someone texts you up at midnight. This was sturdier, heavier, like furniture that doesn't wobble when you sit on it. A month passed. Nathan didn't disappear gracefully. Week 1 after the move, he tried to control the narrative. Subtle at first. Carefully worded messages to mutual friends. Concerned check-ins framed as worry. I could tell who'd heard from him by the way they asked questions that weren't really questions. So I stopped explaining myself altogether. When people asked what happened, I didn't argue. I didn't justify. I didn't dramatize. I sent screenshots. The Thursday night demand. My unlocked phone. His refusal. His admission. Most people figured it out on their own after that. Week 2, Brent told me Nathan tried to make things official with Jade. Apparently, she wasn't interested in the real version of him, just the flattering, needy one who texted late and called her the only person who really understood him. When he showed up talking about commitment, she told him she was seeing someone else. The irony didn't feel loud. It felt precise. Week 3, Nathan called me crying. Not apologizing, unraveling. I don't know why I do this, he said. I ruin good things. Yes, I said calmly. You do. He waited for more. There wasn't any. Week 4, Brent told me something that made me laugh out loud for the first time in weeks. Nathan had started dating someone new, met her on an app. 3 weeks in, he demanded to go through her phone. She dumped him on the spot. Pattern behavior doesn't disappear just because someone promises they're working on it. It disappears when someone actually does the work. Quietly, consistently, without demanding forgiveness as a reward. Nathan texted me one final time after that. I'm in therapy now. I finally see that I was projecting. I accused you because I was guilty. You deserve better. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry. Because I didn't need closure handed to me by the same person who caused the damage. I already had it. My life now is calm. No interrogations. No accusations disguised as intuition. No loyalty tests conducted by people hiding their own disloyalty. Just me, my apartment, my routines, my peace, and a phone that's still incredibly boring. Looking back, the signs were there long before that Thursday night. The way he'd accuse me of noticing other men while liking his ex's photos at 1 a.m. The way he'd question my friendships while protecting his own privacy. The way transparency was always something I owed, but never something he offered. The moral isn't complicated. When someone demands access to your life but guards theirs like a crime scene, believe the imbalance. When someone accuses you out of nowhere, check whether they're confessing sideways. And if your partner insists on a loyalty check, make sure it goes both ways. Because when the lights turn on, the truth doesn't usually run. It freezes.